Welcome to Sound Values, powered in part by LSA Burger and Classic of Denton. Ready, set.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight on DentonRadio.com and DentonRadio.com on Facebook. We are located in the beautiful Discover Denton Welcome Center on the ever-darkening but cool tonight Denton Square. It feels lovely out there. Tonight, I am here with two very special guests. I've got Caleb Coonrod, great
Howdy,
to have
sir.
you with us, and Mike Rosser here.
Howdy.
Awesome. Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Fabulous, brother.
These are two fantastic gentlemen who I've had the pleasure of watching perform in a wonderful group called Remain. Now, I want to make sure that everybody knows that we're not talking about the lettuce here, because the first time y'all ever played at LSA, they said it, and we could have sworn that they said Romaine.
Well, I saw it actually. Someone had written it down somewhere, and they had put it up on a Facebook post, but Romaine is not what we are called.
Yeah, you are Romaine.
Remain, and Michael's band, Flintlock Gypsy.
Exactly, yeah,
So.
the Flintlock Gypsy, who I actually got to watch as well. And you were up there rocking too much, but there was a lady, like I was like doing the sound, and this lady, she was like, "Who are these guys?" You know, so they were loving it, man. The rock and roll was great, guys. I'm happy to have y'all on. This is actually the first time that I've had you guys on the show before. Caleb, I've seen you perform many times with Remain up
Absolutely.
at LSA and all over the place. Mike, I've seen you a couple times with Remain and Flintlock Gypsies. So I've just got we're going to start off with one question that I always like to ask everybody when we start off the show, just kind of give the audience a feel for who we're talking to. And then we'll kind of get into some more of the talking points here that we have. So the first question that I want to ask for Caleb here is, what is one of your first musical memories you can remember seeing or hearing music and thinking like, that's cool, I want to be a part of that?
My mother playing guitar at church. She used to have a very nice voice. She used to be able to sing like a bird, very smooth, and she did a lot of the finger-picking melodic stuff straight out of the 70s, you know.
Okay.
And she smoked way too many cigarettes to sing anymore. So, yeah, I think I have a higher voice than she does now. But, yeah.
All right, right on, man. And so what about you, Mike? What kind of what like got you wanting to play and start writing music?
Say, he brought up a pretty good point. Is I was in the church for a long time, and that just watching, we had a huge choir, like 50, 60 people in there, and the just human vocals, like,
oh yeah,
it was trippy, and it was cool, and it was like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely something about that, man. Like, I went to Catholic church for years growing up, and those have the big choirs, you know, and it's just like, and if you ever took like a music history class, like one of the things they have you study is like, I forget even the name of that type of music all of a sudden, but it was just Gregorian. It's like the Gregorian chants, you know, like those things are like, they can either be like haunting or beautiful. So that's what's up, man. I can see that. But Caleb, what kind of music did you guys listen to growing up in your house?
Well, my mother, she was a huge John Denver fan, and she liked the Eagles, but she taught me my first chords on a John Denver song.
Very
cool. So that's kind of, and there wasn't a whole lot of, my parents divorced at a young age, so there really wasn't a whole lot of music. Like, I don't ever remember either one of my parents putting in a record and saying, check this out. My dad is obviously a fan of we're in Bonham, Texas, pretty far out in the country, and my dad likes the old Alabama, and
I know where Bonham, Texas is, though, man.
Yeah,
I know Bonham.
So there's not, I had to kind of get up and discover rock and roll and folk music and Bob Dylan and stuff like that on my own. But just whatever my parents heard on the radio. We have a lame local radio station, and or had one. There's not one anymore. And there was just anything I could get my hands on, cousins, friends, and not until I was older did I really get some favorites and grasp.
For sure, man.
What music is.
Yeah,
So.
it takes a little bit of time, for sure.
Yeah.
To gain that.
It's not like I grew up, in L.A. or, a lot of people like, oh, your cousin showed you punk rock when you're 12 years old, and it wasn't. I didn't have that luxury. It was not quite like that.
I understand, man.
Yeah.
So how about as a child of divorce as well? I know how that goes.
Yeah.
You know. So how about you, Mike?
Man, I would say it started out with, like, my dad listened to a lot of, what was it, like, Garth Brooks and Dunn and, you know, the Nashville 80s
Yeah.
hardcore country music.
Yep.
And
That stuff, man.
Mom was into, like, Joplin and, you know, some.
Man, that's really cool.
It was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they, like, for the first, it was never really talked about or introduced. It was if you were
Yeah.
in the car, you listened to music, and if you weren't in the car, you didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I came 7, 8 years old right when CDs started coming out, and
Yeah.
we were at the Dollar General, and I saw a Disney theme song CD. I
Get
was
it.
like, that was the first CD that I ever had.
Really?
And it went from that to pretty straight into like Beatles. I was a
Nice.
big Beatles fan. as a
Okay.
little kid.
Man, that's awesome.
That's what's up, man.
And then
Very
I
cool.
discovered AC/DC.
Ah,
And
yes.
all this just
Yeah.
rock and screaming roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
straight into, like, I guess high school was really metal. Like, I was into the hardcore scene and totally
Yeah.
the emo stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just kind of bounced back. And I've been able to listen to all of it without discouragement. So it was just like, yes, we're going to take and listen
Oh,
to
man.
everything.
That's what's up, man.
We were totally discouraged. I was discouraged
see-
from everything.
See, I had 2 older brothers and a younger brother, and I remember my brother brought me for my 12th birthday. He bought me the Offspring Americana CD, you know, which had the "Pretty Fly
Yes.
for a
Yes,
White
sir.
Guy" on
Yep.
it.
Wow.
And "Why Don't You Go Get a Job?" And I still hear those songs, and I know every word
Yes.
to them.
Yes.
And I remember my mom was just like, I remember she was like, "That better be the edited one. You better buy, like you buy it at Walmart, you know." They're like,
That's
"That's
the
what
Eminem CD.
Yeah.
I bought the Eminem
Yeah.
CD.
Yeah.
That's funny. My mom, I remember when 8 Mile came out, and I was like,
Yes.
I'm going to Best Buy. She was like, "You better not come home with
Come
that
on
8
with
Mile
that.
track."
You don't do
But
that.
at that point, I had a car,
Yeah.
so I cut a little slit into my where I could slide CDs of it in and put it back together so
Yeah.
they wouldn't notice.
Well,
So.
Tony Hawk taught me punk rock. Like the Tony
Oh,
Hawk video
yeah.
games
Oh, there
and
you
the
go.
soundtrack for
Yeah,
that whole
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
You're like,
the Ace
you're
of
scroll-
Spades.
Yes.
The Ace
Yeah.
of Spades.
Yeah.
That's some
that
swinging utters in there and just all sorts of this.
That song used to
drop
play.
kick Murphys.
That song used to play so much, I had to like turn it off. I remember you could have certain songs that played,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Ace of Spades has got to go."
Well, it's
If
the
anything,
first,
like,
it
sorry.
was like the
Yeah.
go-to for the first one because it never reload to the last track. So every time you start it, you're like, God, one more time, huh?
One more time with the what is it, Guttermouth? I think it was that track was by. Oh man, that's awesome. see, I told y'all I was like, the interviews are gonna go all over the place. I promise you. You start off talking music, next thing you know, it's Tony Hawk.
Tony
You know?
Hawk.
That's awesome, man. All right, so growing up in Bonham, Texas, man, I know you were saying there wasn't, you had a small radio station, kind of local, didn't have a lot of that, but you had to do a lot of the discovering of music yourself. So how did you discover playing music rather than just listening?
Like I said, my mother showed me some chords on the guitar when I was a kid.
That's right, okay.
And so she, I didn't really take it seriously, and then I got in high school, and some of my cousins, and when my cousins would come down for the holidays, we would all jam and just, grab acoustic guitars and bang around on them.
That's
And,
awesome.
Yeah, it was terrible, and I kind of started taking it, when they would leave, we would, nobody would play. It's like, well, I'm not going to do this by myself, and, there's not, at that time, there wasn't a band or a record that I was just kind of like, well, I don't really have any, all I know is what I hear, and, I'm 13, 14, and so it wasn't like you could put in your favorite record and jam along with it or anything, and I don't know, one time my cousins left, and I was like, I'm going to do this again, and I just got addicted to sitting in my room after football practice and playing guitar till late. And so, yeah, I just kind of started doing that and formed a couple of bands, almost by
Nice.
instinct
Yeah.
in high school. And they, just had a great time and did some
Nice.
talent shows and were terrible. And
Some
know.
battle of the bands.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
besides
yeah.
like those chords that your mom taught you, those John Denver, did you just learn? Because like I learned to play guitar by reading tabs. That
Okay,
was like
yeah.
how I learned. Was my
Yeah.
buddy was like connect the dots. You
Yeah.
know? So how did you learn to kind of write and or play in a way where you could start to play with other people more often?
Right.
And form bands.
I learned the most uneducated, terrible way possible, probably. Like,
By
my
failure.
you find yes, I still do that.
Oh, it's
But you find a song you like, and like my cousin was really into this, where there was a Cross Canadian Ragweed was a band. My cousin was like,
him.
you got to listen. And I didn't have any band. So he's like, check out this song. Let's learn how to play it. So you just hear a song that, oh, okay. And you learn you look it up. And when they say this word, you write a G above. Oh, it says you play a G when he says that, and then you play a C here, and it doesn't quite line up. And you just kind of learn the chords and learn how to play. And if it has a chord that's too hard, you skip it or learn that chord or go to a different song.
I love it.
But I had no training, and no one in my family had any. No one knows. And I would, as far as singing goes, I would just try to shout in the general vicinity of the melody, and I don't like it. It's terrible.
Hey, I like it, man. It sounds very similar to the way that I learned. Just I like the way that sounds. I'm gonna figure out how that plays. And I had a lot of buddies who played way better than I did, and so I would play with them.
Yeah.
And I would just watch what their hands did, and I'd go, oh, okay, if you're playing on that fret or dot right now, that's where I should go, and then I'll go here,
Yep.
So what about you, Mike? How did you kind of start playing music rather than just listening?
That's okay. So my mom decided that it would be a wonderful decision to homeschool me when I was a kid, and I don't know. I guess 6 or 7 years old, I was getting obnoxious enough to where she's like, we need to find you more hobbies because you're driving me insane. Please get out of the house for longer than, the day.
Yeah.
Come back at night.
Yeah.
And so she sent me off, not sent me off, but it was like, shun you, go to guitar school.
Yeah.
No, she she gave me lessons she sent me to a dude that did classical lessons.
Okay.
I was terrible. I cried. It hurt my fingers. I didn't want to do it. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, well, she's still going to make me do this. So I've got to, try, I guess, because there's no getting out of it.
Yeah.
It's either a beating or, no, not really. But so we get to lessons, and it's all
Mike, get up there and play for your grandmother.
Play for your grandmother. You show her what you've worked on. It's like, oh, man, I don't know if I can. So I just watched. I couldn't read the notes. I didn't understand any of that. Still don't.
Yeah.
But I could see what this guy was doing, and I was like, okay, yes, it works. That works. Let's do that. Perfect. And for 4 years, I did bad lessons. And then she sent me to a rock dude that gave me tabs, and it was like, let's go.
Yeah.
Here we go. And from that point, the first thing I enjoyed, and I know this is cliche, but it was Purple Haze.
Oh yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with enjoying that one, man.
Yeah.
And that's what's so funny, man, is I've interviewed a lot of different people, and sometimes you have the individual where they're like, oh, my grandfather used to play with Bob Dylan, under a bridge, and then he taught my dad how to play, and there's 90 years worth of guitar knowledge in these
he
families.
Lost 17 fingers, and he still plays.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Plays with his teeth and his nose. It's crazy.
It's amazing.
I remember, I got grounded for bad grades when I was 14.
Oh, wow.
And my dad had a guitar, but he never played it because he worked in construction, and his fingers were always getting crushed by hammers, so they were too fat to actually play the strings.
Power chords.
Yeah, that's what I would tell him. I'm like, you can play power chords. He's like, no, I'd just rather not.
Step away.
But I picked up his guitar, and I just went into my room because I was like, all right, you're gonna send me in here for all weekend. Cool. I'm gonna do something the chicks will like once I get back to school on Monday.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
The first practice I ever came back from that I enjoyed. The girl was like, "Hey, that sounded good," and I was like, the girl the next practice girl was like, "Hey, that sounded pretty good," and I was like, "Okay." Here we go. We got to do this a little bit more. See what happens.
This is working out well for me right now.
That worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Didn't know
man.
it was that was what it was for, but that's sweet.
School, girls, and music.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of school, Caleb, how did you find your way from Bonham to Denton?
Okay, well, I in high school what I liked was music, girls, football, and I also rode horses for my wife, her grandfather. At the time, we weren't even dating. But I met him, and I started breaking horses for him. He was a cutting horse trainer. And so after high school, I went to work for Matt Gaines, who is kind of like the Michael Jordan of cutting horse trainers. He's really great. He's great at what he does.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
What does cutting horses mean?
Well,
I grew up in the city. Bro.
okay, so
he's awesome. That's what it means.
for the listeners, if you just Google NCHA on YouTube it and watch. But basically, what it is you have a herd of cattle, and you go in on a horse and you cut one cow out. It's in the old days they would have to get one out to doctor it or something. Yeah, come on by, Jay. And so you cut one cow out of a herd, and you have to hold it from getting back to the herd, but you cannot rein your horse. You have to sit there, and the horse has to do it. And there's so much money in it. There's so much. It's such a sport that has grown and ignited that it's really intense, and it's really hard to do.
Yeah. Man.
But I wasn't like, I was just like, you ride the 2-year-olds, and then you get these horses ready for your awesome boss.
That's pretty cool.
So I went to work for him,
Okay.
and in Weatherford, Texas, which is like the cutting horse capital of the world. Nice. And I thought that's what I wanted to do.
Weatherford.
And so I did that, and then went to work up in Tulsa for a while. And then I went to work for a guy named Steve Colclaser in Mansville, Oklahoma. And he's from up near Tulsa. I had been working for his father. And he came up there for a show, and he's like, man, you need to come work for me. And we could do some good together. And we had been like hanging out on the porch one night after this big show. And I lived in a bunkhouse, like stereotypical, you know. And I was like playing guitar and playing every song I knew, and we're just hanging out, and he's like, dude, if you come to work for me, you've got to pursue that in some way. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so anyway, I go to work for Steve at the end of that year, and he walks in one day in the barn, and I'm out there got horses saddled, and he's like, hey man, I got you a gig at Rascals tomorrow night. They're going to pay you $100. And I was like, what? And he's like, all you got to do is follow me down there, bring your guitar, and play him a couple songs. I was like, all right, well, yeah, let's do it. He's like, no, like, we got to go now. And so he takes me to this bar in the armpit of Oklahoma it's still probably the roughest place I've ever played. And
shout out to Rascals.
Yeah.
What type of music they got there? Oh, we got both types.
They got both types and Western. Yeah. So I walk in, play a couple songs on the bar, and come do this again Saturday night. And I was like, $100. Wow, this is cool. So I had a regular gig there once a month, and pretty soon I told Steve, I was 19 years old at the time, 19, 20, I don't know. And I said, Steve, I got to go try to form a band and do this. Mm-hmm. And he's like, that's why I told you to come work for me, man. And but I was terrible, and Steve's a guy that when you hang out with him, you just feel cool, and he's just a great dude. And so I quit working for him, came back. I was like, well, I need a nothing job, and worked a couple jobs, worked at a Target for a while, worked a couple temp jobs, worked at a warehouse, got a job finally as a spot welder. Did that for 2 years and formed a couple versions of Remain. Mm-hmm. And this was in like 2009. And then along that, I was kind of like, well, if I ever want to like coach football or something, in case this doesn't work out and I don't want to go ride horses again, I need to get my college degree. So I had gone to 2-year college. I did all that, and I would work, go to college at 9 and play music whenever I could. And I still remember I would keep track. I was like, I have 2 gigs this month. I'm awesome. I thought that was like a big deal, and I was just stoked. I'd try to book gigs. And so anyway, kept doing that, and I was like, I'm done here. And a short stint, I was working actually at a feed store, and I met this guy, Randy Robertson, who was a jazz student at UNT back in I believe in the 80s. And he is an awesome musician. He's great. And I think his daughter Savannah used to work up at LSA up here.
So, I know Savannah very well.
Yeah. And so her dad
Wow.
is the reason I moved to Denton. He was
town.
working
Dude, what is
just by chance. He's working at a barbecue store. I'm sorry I'm dragging this out, but
No, this is awesome.
So he's working at a barbecue store next to this feed store in the middle of nowhere in Leonard, Texas. And so I go down there, and my mom's a school teacher. She was doing some work there in the summer because she gets bored, and she's like, Caleb, you got to watch this guy play guitar. I brought my guitar, and I was like, dude, yeah, let's hang out. Let's show me what you know. And finally he's like, if you really want to do this, you ought to move to Denton. And he's like, I'm telling you, when I was in lab band, he was in the 1 o'clock lab band at UNT in, I think, the 80s. I don't remember. So, I'm done with junior college. I finished that. I've tried to start a couple bands, and the guys there's not really a scene up here, and and there's nowhere to play. And so I came to Denton, and, I went to an open mic at Banter on a Thursday night. Matt Grigsby was hosting in place of Bone Doggy.
Yeah.
And I met Jake there the next week. I met so many friends that first couple of weeks I was in Denton. They were just like, and I went to every open mic every week I could, and finished my degree in English literature, and still trying to play music before I get to be 65 years old and retire.
Yeah, man. Well,
So, yeah.
What I'm personally amazed is your name recollect. Like, you remembered so many names.
Oh, man.
So
Well, these were like big events. This is like these people like changed my life. Like no kidding.
Steve,
and,
it's like him
yeah.
telling you this. That one gig, that one moment
Yeah.
he sees you playing that guitar,
Yeah.
changes it all, man.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
I actually talked to him the other day. He hit me up on Facebook and told me to get a haircut. But, and I was like, "This is your fault."
Yeah. So how about you, Mike? What's your story, man? How did you make it up here to Denton? How did you get involved with Remain?
That's a short story. That went.
Yeah.
That went. Hey, let's go play some music up at Audacity one time, and then Caleb was like, "Hey, let's hang
Yeah.
out."
He came to the open mic I hosted Audacity, and I met him there. And
Do you host? Is that a once a week thing? Is it
Every
still going
Thursday
on?
night,
Cool.
yeah.
Every
Yep.
Thursday
Yeah.
night, you can go up
Yeah.
there, go up to Audacity for the open mic
Jam,
night.
they got
That's
some cool
awesome.
people coming up there. I would say, let's see. So mid junior year or something like that, I got jumped into high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Mom, I feel like this weird, creepy kid that doesn't ever talk to anybody. So that was the worst idea of my life. Like, worst idea. But we jumped in. I jumped into high school and met a dude, Zach Howell, that he did art. And he was like the only other kid really that I knew that like really put his time into an art. Because at that point I'd been writing songs for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, yeah, you paint, I'll write some music, we'll jam and like hang out, and we played a bunch of Halo and all sorts of fun stuff.
Yeah.
But he moved up here to he did art at UNT, and I think it was graphic design major. But he came up here and I was like, okay, I ran out of friends. Okay, no, I don't know anybody in the town anymore, so I'm going to go to Denton and follow him like a weirdo. So I come up here and start hanging out, and I just start crashing on the couch more and more often, to where it's just like, okay, I'm here, I'm kind of invested. And then he had a roommate that had a friend that lived 2 houses down that played drums, and that's Adam Thompson. Was my first dude that I ever got to like really. You're playing music and I'm playing music, and this is super awesome.
Nice.
I think
Very cool.
The first show we ever played was the J&J's basement.
Nice.
Down
oh,
there.
that's a good one.
That was that big, moldy, wet room was one of my favorite places in
Oh,
Denton.
yes.
It's so amazing.
Yeah, I played there a couple times. Loved it every time.
Yep.
So good, man.
And that really was just because I've always kind of pushed and tried to get out and talk to other musicians, and that's just kind of how this whole thing, for the last, I've been in Denton for almost 8 years or something along those lines, and it's just really cool, like, to be able to be in a town that is constantly flowing more people in and funneling more people out, and you just get this nice connection and network that after several years of people moving off, you've got something like this nice person over here that you worked with in the past, and just building a network out of having fun and playing music with people and rocking out. Like,
truly, man, truly. I mean, when I moved up here 4 years ago to go to school, I lived in Irving, and I was just making music in my room. I'd never played a show, you know, like especially with all my own stuff. I had done like I used to write raps and stuff, and I had a boss who heard me rap one time. He was like, "You got to come play." I lived in Colorado, and we lived in a small town, and so like, you know, it's like little small town notoriety, like in the little mountain towns doing your thing, and loved doing that. But it wasn't until I moved up here. I remember I was at Lights All Night down in Dallas, the New Year's Eve show.
Yeah.
And there was this girl standing next to me, and we were just kind of waiting, and we just kind of started talking. And her name was Dandy Doyle, and her boyfriend was this guy named the Whittler. And the Whittler,
not just the Whittler.
He was the Whittler, and like he made like dubstep, dark, wubby type stuff.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to move up to Denton." She's like, "Oh, you should come to Andy's. There's this thing called the Denton Dance Collective." And I went in there, and I kind of was like, you know, this isn't, like, I don't really have a place right here right now, but maybe I can do something else. So I started investing in a bunch of lighting because I noticed some of the venues didn't have great lighting at the time. And that was what got me my in with these kids, because I was like, I'm not a very good DJ, and I'm learning how to make this music stuff right now.
I can push these sweet light
but
buttons.
I can play these light buttons, and that's my way to be cool with all these other cool guys then. And then
We can throw our own festival.
That is Chris.
It's pretty cool.
I'm not even kidding. That's what I said. I was like, okay, no one knows me here. I'm not going to get shows yet, so I need to just start creating my own, like make it. So we would do house parties and all that stuff. But you know, just like you were saying, man, just the network of people that you can get to know. Like I met Jake working up at LSA, and that's why I'm here right now. And then a lot of other people who I've met. It's crazy how many people, like, you know, all those Denton Dance Collective guys, they're gone and they're off doing other stuff. But it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing, you know, kind of what I get to do right now.
Exactly.
So it's a lot of fun, man, and the connections that you make, and it's hard to leave the town too. You know, like even the people, like my dad tells me, he's like, don't go anywhere. He was like, I graduated from here in like 1978. Do not go anywhere.
Oh, that's cool. Your parent, that's awesome.
my dad graduated from here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he still calls it NTSU, North Texas State University. Yeah. I actually found a plaque one day, like a couple years back. It's still on like a random building. I was like, oh man, no. I wanted to and send it to him, be like, here you go.
Yes.
But guys, I wanted to start getting to some of the shows you got coming up, some events. I know Mike's got a new record coming out, and Remain has a new single. So we've got a Halloween show coming up. Tell me a little bit about that, Caleb.
Well, it was kind of Mike's vision to get Remain, Flintlock Gypsy, and a band we jam with a lot, Sonar Lights. They're from Fort Worth to play.
Those guys,
They rock, man.
Man, we love those guys.
We love you guys.
Sorry, those guys are just great musicians, great dudes, and shout out to Sonar Lights. So we're doing the Halloween show at Killers, October 28th. Starts at 7 p.m. It's a costume party. That is a Saturday night.
Yes.
So
costume party.
yeah.
I think we're talking. Give
them some details, Mike.
There's some works of some tasty goodness for this. We're looking at. I don't know. We want some special little events. There's a toss-up right now that's possibly we might have a pumpkin chunkin' contest. I don't know how far that's going to go, but we've got some raffles. There's a prize, cash prize for the costume winner.
Nice.
We're going to have like a whole judging thing. And
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We're going to try to get some solo artists to open up too. We've got a plethora of people to kind of see if they're available, and then, you know, but yeah.
That's awesome. Is there a cover that night?
It's $5.
Nice.
Or a costume. If
Okay.
you actually take, and that's the thing. I love this stuff so much. I don't want to, but there's sometimes you've got to make a little bit on the end. But with that being said, if you guys put the effort towards, like, you know, dressing up and coming out and feeling festive, then we are obligated to give you an exclusive free time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
Man, I was on Fry Street for the Oktoberfest this weekend, and they had a costume contest.
Yeah.
And what I realized is if you want to win a costume contest, you and your dog dress up.
Yep.
And you've immediately
You
won.
got it. Yeah, you got it. Yep.
This lady took the cake. It was over. She had like lederhosen custom made for her pup,
Oh,
and
man.
he was loving it.
That's almost not fair.
I know. I know. They had
Maybe
No,
we
that's
should
cool.
specify. But I did put a dog costume in the flyer. So
Killers is actually named after a dog, is
Yeah.
what Michael told
yeah,
me. so.
Yeah.
there's a little chihuahua. There's a poster on the right hand side once you walk in.
That's what that is. Okay.
That's exactly what
Okay.
that is.
Okay.
That's who. Okay,
It
I've
says
always wondered.
Killer's expletive.
It's his taco.
Ah.
It is his. Yeah.
Yeah,
They are
no,
his
the
tacos.
Killer
His
is the
tacos, man.
little chihuahua.
That's awesome. So we've got that. That's a Saturday, the 28th.
Yes.
Got that Halloween show. That sounds like a lot of fun, man.
And if you haven't tried their tacos, I don't know. Have you checked them
I
out?
haven't, man. I'm guilty.
Get it, man.
I know.
They're
I'm
delicious.
guilty. Like I remember driving by that place and it was no longer the White House one day, and it was just Killer's Tacos. I was
Yep.
like, oh. But they've been doing a ton of good stuff. I mean, they've got shows going on every week over
Yeah.
there. Open
Yeah.
mic
Yeah.
night. It's great to see how many. For one venue that's gone, another one pops back up.
Yep.
You
Sure,
know, that's
absolutely.
one thing that I've noticed. Sure, we do miss that stinky, dark, dank, dirty basement.
Yes, we do.
But the outdoors
we
is
do.
nice, and they've just
Yeah.
they just redid their backstage, and they're working on some other stuff. That's pretty slick, man.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff. Awesome stuff. And so, yeah, once again, Killer, 7 p.m., costume party, $5 cover, or a costume.
Yes.
Or
Right?
or just effort,
Yeah,
just some
Effort's what
effort.
we're looking. But if you just come with vampire fangs, that's not enough.
No, that
Yeah,
doesn't count.
yeah,
We're going to
yeah,
charge you
yeah.
$4
Yeah.
and take your vampire face.
I was
Because
gonna
I
say
want some.
a $1 discount for the $1 fangs you bought at the Dollar General.
Exactly. That's what we'll do. Is like we'll digress. Like
yeah.
you kind of dressed up, $350.
And then the best gets the cash prize.
Yeah. Oh man. So then we also have some other events that you guys have done, and then we have some that are actually coming up. We've got the pancreatic benefit, which y'all did recently. So
Absolutely.
it was a little bit about that.
That was gnarly. Actually,
It was at Shipping and Receiving in Fort Worth.
Okay.
And the bass player in Flintlock Gypsy, Chris Wilder.
it's like one day. Okay, so our
Tell 'em,
bass
yeah.
player, it's kind of crazy. About a year ago, he got a call from his doctor while we were at band practice, and he was like, "Hey, man, you got pancreatic cancer." And we were like, "Oh, wow!" So we're just gonna go in there and jam out as hard as we can. We rocked out, and it's been an interesting thing. But I think, dude, he had a surgery like 2.5 months ago, and he's got 2 days left of radio and chemo, and he's done. And
wow.
they're going to clear him, and it's just
And he looks great.
and he looks great.
Yeah.
But he actually somehow, in some sort of crazy mix, his nephew or his niece called him up and was like, "Hey, one of my neighbors is doing this thing for this whole pancreatic cancer bin. It's called PanCan. Hashtag PanCan." But this whole event was put on by his niece. No, this whole event is put on by his niece, who just happened to have a neighbor that was putting on an event and called us up and said, this, and it was, I think we raised almost $1,400 in like 5 hours for the whole
Wow.
event, which
That's
is
awesome,
It
man.
was super cool.
That's great, man. It's a great cause.
It was a great
cause
event.
right there.
Stephanie Unch also played there.
Yes, and Copper Root.
And Copper Root,
Cool.
another band she's in, and Flintlock and Remain. And Shipping and Receiving is a great venue, great sound, and it was a great
Super
cause
cool
on a
stage.
beautiful day. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's great, man.
it went well.
And so then we've also got a Hurricane Harvey benefit that's coming up.
That was last
That was
Friday.
was last Friday.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And actually,
Mike's old band did that.
Yep,
Yeah.
band that I've been. I guess we had a kind of a reunion show because our drummer left for Austin. Everybody graduated and had smarter way. Like the guitarist and lead singer is like a neuroscience. He's doing like crazy,
Yeah.
growing mouse brains and shooting neurons through them. Just like
things we can't even imagine. Yeah.
their old guitarist is like perfecting all sorts of great Western medicine off in like St. Louis right now, and it's
That's
just
awesome.
super great group of dudes that Alex Tripp, or he's the guy that kind of put the whole thing on, and he's everything that we've done through them has always been for. So we did canned goods, a canned good drive. We did a drive called Jacket Off, where we
The jacket.
got jackets for a homeless shelter.
Yes.
what else has he done? There's so much that guy's really brought to the table. And the last show that we played was we sent, I think we made 500 for
The Hurricane Harvey?
It went straight to HoustonText.gov.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Great to hear. Yeah, and there's so many great benefit shows that went on for that up here. It was,
man.
It was awesome,
it was
dude.
really great seeing everybody pull together.
Yeah, it was like if you could, you did.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely.
and it was awesome, man. And then we've got something going on at Harvest House on October 14th.
Yes, correct. We've done the last 2 years. Remain has played for the Denton County Friends of the Family Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we met them through Jeremy at Musicians Hub. Shout out to those guys. They also provide the guitars that are hanging behind us. But
That's true.
We practiced there many times. Their practice rooms are cool.
Right, absolutely. And so we've been doing this for Hillary and all the lovely people at Denton County Friends of the Family. This will be the third year. And I believe things start around 7.
Cool.
And that is October 14th, Saturday night.
At Harvest House.
It's always a good time, and it's a great cause as well. So
That's great, dude.
Yep.
That's what I love, man. Is like we said earlier, you know, I feel like in the music community, man, there is just, especially up here. I mean, you know, I get around and have been to other places and down to Austin and Dallas, and you know, great people in all of those cities. But what I just love to see is in the town that I'm living in, you know, is just to play to help. You know, just playing to help other people, to be there for each other when it's needed, you know, and, you know, just like you said, it's not all the time, but sometimes it's nice to make a little scratch on the side. But at the end of the day, like I always said, I was just like, you know, if I could be in the middle of the woods, as long as I've got a way to play something, I'm going to play some, play some music, you know.
It's not going to change where I play.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. So that's awesome that you guys are coming out. You're making things happen, not just for yourselves, but for other people as well. And to speak of making things happen, I believe Remain's got a new single coming out.
Millennial Nation. We put that on iTunes on August 21st. We still have a little promo vid on our Facebook page. It's at the top, and it was kind of a fun little thing we did.
With Pat Leal.
Yeah, Pat Leal, and Pat did a great job.
It was fun. And
it went well.
That's awesome, man. What's kind of the sound that we've got going on? Is it that, because you guys are pretty heavy rock?
Yeah, I'd say we're just American rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really scream or anything when I sing. You know, I kind of just have I know what I can do in my range there, and then we try to accommodate that and you know, write songs that report on the state we're in. I guess, you know? So.
The preacher.
I hear you on that. Yeah,
so
hey, man. I get it.
But it's been going well. We have a manager in Florida actually who's put together a radio deal for us. We've been putting that. It's got some radio play. He has connections in England, a lot in the UK, Canada, Denmark, and then we were working on some stuff in LA and San Diego, just getting it to these radio shows of DJs he knows and people he knows.
So, you know, maybe you didn't grow up in L.A. Maybe it was Bonham, but you'll get there eventually. You know? You're on your way, man. You're on your way.
But, yeah, it's going well, and, yeah, we love the song. We're trying to, you know, if we had the money, we would do a whole album around it. But, yeah, it's great.
Goes,
we recorded it at Real Time Audio with Eric Delegard, who is ever so classy, and he's a pretty punishing dude, man. He does things right.
Classy and sassy.
Yeah. No, he's great at what he does, and he
that's awesome.
Really helps us. So, yeah.
So definitely. Cool. So is that single is out?
Yes,
awesome.
You can find it on.
Nation.
It's very easy to find. Just go to iTunes, search Remain Millennial Nation. And you may have to look up how to spell millennial because I didn't know how to do it until I wrote the song. So
autocorrect.
Yeah, M-I-L-L. Yeah, 2 L's, 2 L's, 2 N's.
I don't even know.
E-N-N.
M-I-S-S.
And then Mike, you've got a new record coming out.
Yes, we're in the progress right now. It's been different. Honestly, we just picked up the most amazing dude for guitars. We just picked up a new guitarist. Jacob Parsons is a beast. And now he's going, I'm not going to do what I was thinking about doing. But
he also looks like Kid Rock. He really does.
Yeah, he's
He
a little
looks-
sexy. He's a little sexy.
I love it.
But no, it's been.
I wrote that in my notes. Jacob Parsons, Kid Rock.
Kid
Yes.
When I see him, Mr. Rock.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
First name Kid.
Yeah.
Last name. No, it's been interesting. We our first album we did through Jason Champion and Zero Buffalo Studios, and we killed it for that. Honestly, I did not have a band for that album. I walked into his studio and said, "Okay, I know a bunch of musicians, and we're going to get one per song, and that's what we're going to do." And it took a year to do the whole thing. It was pretty time consuming, but I think it turned out fairly well. And we decided to go a little bit different direction this time around. And I believe one of my bass player, Chris Wilder, one of his friends, I forget, the name slips me right now, but he's got a studio that we're working on our drum parts right now in. And then I think everything else we're going to pull back in the. Chris and I have a decent little lab
That's awesome.
that we're going to probably pull the rest of the parts back into. And I'm not really particular on how long it takes. I'm not really particular on. Other than getting the end result exactly where it needs to be, and that's where we're getting there, man.
That's what I like to hear, man. And so, where can we find Remain?
You can find Remain on Facebook, Reverb Nation, Instagram, YouTube, all at Remain Rocks.
And that is REMAIN.
Not Romaine.
Not Romaine. I just want y'all to know that.
Yes.
Rocks.
And then where
Rocks
can we?
is
Yeah,
emphasized.
Rocks emphasized. And then where can we find the Flintlock Gypsies, my man?
We find us on, what are we on? Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Reverb Nation, Bandcamp,
Awesome, man.
Apple Music, Google Music. Pretty much the works.
Yeah,
As
I love
much
that,
as
I
I
love
could
that
find.
name too. I love that name, but like I told y'all, 45, 50 minutes is gonna fly by before y'all realize it. So that'll be a whole nother story of finding out
man,
where
that's
these
a
names
fun-
came
yes,
from,
that's
man.
a fun story, too.
But before we go, I've always got. There he is. He just wrote "kid."
Get it,
There you
Jake.
go.
Hey, boy.
So, yeah. So the last question I have to ask, it's one of the most important. I ask everybody in the studio. So, Caleb, what is your favorite snack?
Well, man, lately I've been digging on these smokehouse almonds, dude.
There you go.
But I got to go with Reese's, man.
Oh,
Reese's Cups.
All right. All
Reese's
right.
Cups.
Carly Reese was the same way. She's like, Reese's Cups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't go wrong with
You
Reese's
can't.
Cups.
And how about you, Mike?
Well, it's probably not my favorite, but yesterday was my birthday, and I decided that I was going to just lay in my bed and eat an entire bag of fiery Cheetos.
Those are my favorite too, man.
Yes.
Yes.
And it hurt so
Yeah,
bad.
that's so awful.
But it hurts so good.
Yeah. It's like, what is that John Mellencamp? Sometimes love don't feel like it should.
Yes.
Baby, bow, bow. That should have been your theme song in bed that day. It hurts
Yes.
so good. Oh, man. Well,
It
fellas,
hurts so good.
it's been I've laughed a lot tonight. It's been a great time, man. Caleb, once again, thank
Hey,
you so
brother.
much for coming
Appreciate
on.
it, man.
Mike, I mean,
Anytime,
45,
brother.
50 minutes flew by way too fast. Folks, once again, you can check them out at Remain Rocks. Also, make sure you check out Flintlock Gypsies. Tons of shows coming up. Halloween show the 28th. That's Saturday at Killers, 7 p.m. Check that out. It's going to be awesome. We've got a new single out from Remain called Millennial Nation and a new record coming out from the Flintlock Gypsies soon enough. Folks, thanks again for tuning in with us. We've got the Denton Vibe with Ellie Bell up next. Y'all stay tuned in and locked in right here on DentonRadio.com. We'll see you next time.
Peace. Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to check out DentonRadio.com for new Denton artists and where they're playing next. While you're surfing the internet, make sure you check out our friends Classic of Denton at ClassicofDenton.com.